Coast, as well as the English clubs, Manchester City and Leicester City. Let's go now to Rob Harris, our sports correspondent. And Rob, that breaking news now, the Sven-Goran Eriksson, former England manager, of course, has died.
Yes, devastating news for Sven-Goran Eriksson's family after living through quite an extraordinary last year or so after he revealed his battle with pancreatic cancer. It was in January that he revealed that he could no longer really be treated, and it did allow him this farewell over several months. He was able to sort of see all the tributes to him over recent months, celebrating his career so memorably at Anfield in March, where he fulfilled his dream of managing of Liverpool for one time, and it was a Legends match, and the acclaim of the Anfield crowd is something that many will live long in the memory. But for Sven-Goran Eriksson, he was really a charismatic figure. He was someone who helped to transform English football by becoming the first foreign manager of the men's national team and really leading an quite incredible era from 2001 to 2006. It was that golden generation era where he really had to balance out the celebrity culture that was engulfing with the team, as well as these really high expectations that they could finally end the wait for silverware since 1966. And his achievements with the team, while he didn't actually manage to ever take them to glory, the quarterfinals are set against perhaps the struggles of his predecessors and successors in that role. And it's something that has been foremost on people's minds over the last few days, because a documentary of his life was released just last week, and it was really his farewell, not only to his family, his public, and indeed many fans, a celebration of his career that took him from the lower leagues in Sweden, how he managed to climb through from the unfancied Swedish leagues all the way through to managing one of the greats of European football, Benfica. He really had to go against the trend, and people unexpected to see this figure who'd emerged from coaching in Sweden taking such a role, then into Italy, where he achieved such acclaim over a 15-year period. And that's when, in 2001, when England really needed a manager to take them into the new century, why they turned to Sven-Goran Eriksson. And it was a very tough time for him. He had to face the challenge of his nationality being questioned, whether or not it was the right time for a non-Englishman to be able to take charge of the team. In fact, he thought the approach from the FA was originally a joke, and he dismissed it for a time. He then did reconsider and really had to grapple not only with the expectations of the team, but also dealing with the huge media attention and the spotlight that was so challenging, and did have its difficulties as well. The fact that only discovering really in later years how he was an apparent victim of phone hacking as well, which did destabilise him in terms of having his private life being raked over and exposed through potentially nefarious means. So that was all he had to try to grapple with. But certainly he was a gentleman. He was someone who so many saw the charm that he brought to the job. He rarely seemed to be troubled by the huge attention, the huge focus on it, and he really dealt with it in his stride. And, if we look back at his tournaments, he reached the quarterfinals at the 2002 World Cup, Euro 2004, the World Cup 2006, where, he experienced the anguish of so many England managers that have experienced, which is penalties that ultimately did indeed deny him the chance of taking them further, when he really thought that they were able to go on to finally lift the trophy, but losing in the quarterfinal. This is a period with, David Beckham, Wayne Rooney as well. He had the tail end of Michael Owen's career, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard. These were so many of the greats of the game, and he really had to, though, contend with injuries to these players at various times, like Wayne Rooney and David Beckham, when the whole nation was trying to will them on to become fit for the tournaments, to be able to take them on to success. But ultimately, while he didn't manage to achieve that and left after 2006, he really did have this hunger and desire to stay within football. And that's why within a year of leaving the England job, he ended up at Manchester City at a very different era to the one now, before the influx of huge investment. In fact, he had to contend with the very contentious ownership of the former Thai Prime Minister, Thaksin Shinawatra. And at the time then, he did leave after just a year in that role, but then continued to take more jobs, like in Mexico with the national team there, the Ivory Coast, managing in China as well, and the Philippines, and also at Leicester City long before they became the Premier League champions so unexpectedly. And this really showed how the person who came from being a PE teacher in a small Swedish town rose to the very peaks of football, and to fact managing England, the impossible job, as it was so often seen, taking one of the big jobs in world football, and a job that he reflected on at times with Tony Blair when he was Prime Minister about how they share the dual pressures of that role. But certainly someone who was very committed to football, and he's lived the last few months in terms of with this great difficulties through the struggle with pancreatic cancer, but giving him this chance to be celebrated and to say farewell.
Rob, stay with us because we've just had a statement from the family. Let me read it to you. Sven-Goran Eriksson has passed away after a long illness. He died during the morning at home, surrounded by family. The closest mourners are his daughter Lina, son Johan with wife Amanda and granddaughter Sky, his father Sven, girlfriend Janisette and son Alcides, brothers Lars Erik and wife Yumnong. The family asks for respect for their wish to mourn in private and not be contacted. Condolences and greetings can be left on the website Sven-Goran So that breaking news story that we've got over the past few minutes, the death of former England manager Sven-Goran Eriksson, who has died at the age of 76 after a long fight with pancreatic cancer. He did, Rob Harris mentioned it a little bit earlier, in an interview a while ago, Sven-Goran Eriksson mentioned that he had wanted to manage Liverpool, and that actually did happen for one day. So he managed to make that dream come true as well. So he was England manager. A lot of questions had been asked over his nationality. He did put the team for 2001, 2004, 2006, and of course the loss at penalties there. Well known also, it has to be said, for his sometimes colourful life, but obviously a very special person in the world of football. So that breaking news, again, Sven-Goran Eriksson has died at the age of 76. Well, joining me now is Rob Tanner, football writer for The Athletic. Thank you so much for joining us here on Sky News. First of all, how do you think he will be remembered among the many other England managers?
As an absolute gentleman, he really was. I mean, it's an unforgiving job, being the England manager. Obviously, a lot of headlines come your way, a lot of press intrusion, a lot of criticism. But he took it all, he soaked it all in, and he never changed his demeanour. He was always very respectful to everybody, never seemed to lose his temper or show any signs of the pressure of that role. I knew him personally when he was manager of Leicester City. I was covering the club then as well. And how you perceive him is exactly how he is. He's so well-mannered and generous with his time to all the supporters and to the people around the club as well. Just a true gentleman of the game.
Yes, and I think we saw that as well in the way that he handled his illness, especially in the past couple of months. But just staying with his professional achievements, what do you think his biggest achievement was?
Well, I think some of the earliest achievements in Sweden, his home country, and then going up to Italy and progressing his career there. He was such a talented coach. I don't think we really saw the best of him in English football. He was probably earlier in his career was when he was really at the top of his game, because the game moves on so quickly and you've got to move on with it tactically as well. But the fact that he was England manager as well during that golden generation, we never saw the true potential of that team. But he was a statesman-like figure leading that team, and that's how I remember him as well. A guy that had great dignity, carried himself so well that you had nothing but respect for him.
I think you just mentioned that he didn't perhaps, we didn't see the full potential of that golden generation. He was the manager from 2001 till around 2006. Why do you think that is?
I think there was lots of factors around that time. I mean, there was a lot of the ex-players have mentioned the inter-club rivalries within the squad around that period as well. Obviously, England have been underachieving for years and years and years. Before then, so there was a lot of pressure as well on those lads when they put on the England shirt. We talk about the weight of the England shirt and how it's weighed it down. It's only recently, under Gareth Southgate, that pressure has sort of been lifted a little bit off the players' shoulders. And he did try and be that focal point to try and relieve some of that pressure on those players. I mean, he captured as many headlines as a lot of those lads did back then. But it just wasn't meant to be. It just didn't quite gel at the right times, and obviously didn't have the best of luck in some periods as well, with injuries to key players before big tournaments as well. So there's lots of factors why they didn't fulfil that potential.
And Rob, stay with us. We've just had a tweet regarding Sven-Goran Eriksson's death from the Prince of Wales. And it says, "Sad to hear about the passing of Sven-Goran Eriksson. I met him several times as England manager and was always struck by his charisma and passion for the game. My thoughts are with his family and friends, a true gentleman of the game." William, and interesting, Rob, that word gentleman, which is exactly the one that you mentioned at the start of the interview. Let me just bring you some more reaction. This is from Liverpool Football Club, and it says, "Rest in peace, Sven-Goran Eriksson. The thoughts of everyone at the club are with Sven's family and friends at this extremely sad time." And Rob, he always had this link, didn't he, with Liverpool Football Club, and it had been his dream to manage them, and he did achieve it.
Yeah, that was really poignant, wasn't it? When he got to manage the Legends team at Anfield and to feel the love of the Kop as well. They gave him a fantastic reception that day. That would have fulfilled a lifelong ambition. And I think that was really fitting towards the end. Well, obviously, we knew that it was terminal and that he didn't have much time. So for them to be able to do that, I think that was incredibly generous. And it just shows the high regard that he's held within the game by fans of all clubs.
What was it like at the beginning? Because, of course, he was, I think still is, the first and only foreign manager of the England team, which back in 2001, how was that received?
Yeah, he was the first one. And obviously there was a bit of... that was a bit of a tough one for him to deal with, because obviously there would have been a little bit of criticism of that. But previously, I think we'd gone with English managers and it had been a dismal failure. But he was in touch with the psyche of English football. So I think he was a good choice at that time. And they needed somebody with experience to take on that role. And overall, I'd say that was a success. I mean, he qualified for tournaments. We weren't qualifying for tournaments at the time. We were starting to get into deeper areas of those tournaments as well, deeper phases. And then they went back as well with Fabio Capello. So they did touch with international managers. But I think the thing with Sven was that he was very much in tune with English football, English psyche about the game as well. So I think he was a good fit at that time.
And I mean, you mentioned the word gentleman, which Prince William has mentioned as well in the tweet. I mean, he had a gentle manner about him. How do you think people who perhaps aren't that into football will remember him? Because he really did become a personality beyond football, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him interact with members of the public, as I said, when he was manager at Leicester City, and how brilliant he was with them. You know, he made everybody feel part of the football club, a part of what they were trying to achieve and build the club at the time. So, yeah, it's a family club as well, Leicester. They've lost a second manager now, former manager, in a short space of time after the death of Craig Shakespeare as well. But to his time at Leicester, he conducted himself exactly how you see him in the public image. He's, he was so respectful of everybody, had time for everybody. You know, I saw him at public events, and people would be coming over to his table. And in fact, we got invited to a pre-season tour with him as well when he was Leicester manager. And we went to Sweden for part of it, and to see how he was received in his home country as well. He'd walk into a restaurant and everybody would want to come up and shake his hand and have a photograph with him. And he had time for everybody. So that's how I'll remember him.
How do you think he changed English football? What do you think his legacy will be there?
I think he took the national team forwards. I genuinely believe he did. I know people talk about the wasted golden generation, but as I said, we came from a time when we weren't qualifying for tournaments and we weren't getting out of group phases when we did qualify for tournaments. But they did enhance that. They did progress. He did improve sort of the confidence of the English team moving forwards. And I think that sort of foundation that he put in place, subsequent managers have been able to build on that slowly. And, we're getting to a stage now where England are going into tournaments and they're amongst the favourites for that. And arguably, we probably don't have as talented individuals as we probably had back then. But we are developing a team ethos now. And I think he started that work many years ago.
And of course, he also suffered by a loss at penalties, which unfortunately, we've seen before. How do you think that he handled that pressure that specifically comes from being manager of the England men's football team?
With great dignity. Obviously, there was a lot of intrusion into his private life as well around that time, and he was a single man, and he liked to enjoy his life away from the game as well as the football. But although he was absolutely dedicated to football, whatever was thrown at him, that smile that we've seen on the screen, that was always there, and he took it all on the chin and he just carried on. He didn't let it deflect him from the task ahead of him, and as I said, a gentleman, and handled it all with such dignity.
And Rob, just a final question, just for the viewers tuning in now and seeing this breaking news that Sven-Goran Eriksson has died. How will you remember him?
A man that lived his life how he wanted to live it and enjoyed it. He showed great passion in his football. Away from the game, he enjoyed his life as well. I've seen him, when he's been in party mode as well a little bit. He would relax, let his hair down, and enjoy himself. It's a life that's been well lived, and he's packed it. It's been full of so many great achievements and so many great experiences.
What a wonderful tribute. Rob Tanner from The Athletic, thank you so much for sharing your memories of Sven-Goran Eriksson. And to viewers tuning in now, that breaking news that the former England manager Sven-Goran Eriksson has died after a battle with cancer. He was 76 years old and had pancreatic cancer. At the very beginning of this year, he revealed he only had a year to live at best. So Sven-Goran Eriksson, who has died at the age of 76. This is Sky News Today. It's 1 o'clock. The headlines. Breaking news. The former England manager Sven-Goran Eriksson has died. The football legend passed away, aged 76, after a long illness with pancreatic cancer. More than 200 firefighters worked to put out a fire at a block of flats in East London.
There was no fire alarms, nothing went off. So when we ran out of the flat, we just saw some neighbours, smoke coming out of the door. They just, we look at each other, are you okay, okay? So we working out a few other flats, but yeah, no fire alarms.
The main motivation of our people, all of us, is freedom. We want to defend our country. The Russians will have to either kill us all or leave.
Also ahead, an exclusive report on the Ukrainian resistance fighters conducting covert operations behind Russian lines. 1 million revelers are expected at the Notting Hill Carnival, one of the biggest street festivals in the world. And
I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now.
Definitely maybe, Liam Gallagher fuels speculation about an Oasis revival. We start with some breaking news in the last hour. The former England manager Sven-Goran Eriksson has died following a long illness. He was 76 years old. He had pancreatic cancer and at the beginning of the year revealed he only had a year to live at best. The Swede became the first foreign manager of the England men's football team in 2001, coaching the so-called golden generation of players, including David Beckham, Steven Gerrard, Wayne Rooney and Frank Lampard. He managed England for 67 games, recording 40 victories in the role. Now, in a statement, his family have said Sven-Goran Eriksson has passed away. After a long illness, he died during the morning at home, surrounded by family. The family asks for respect for their wish to mourn in private and not be contacted. Prince William has posted the following statement on X. Sad to hear about the passing of Sven-Goran Eriksson. I met him several times as England manager and was always struck by his charisma and passion for the game. My thoughts are with his family and friends, a true gentleman of the game. And Liverpool Football Club has paid tribute to Sven, saying, rest in peace, Sven-Goran Eriksson. The thoughts of everyone at the club are with Sven's family and friends at this extremely sad time. Our sport correspondent Rob Harris joins me now. Rob, news that I think was obviously not unexpected because he had been very open about the illness, but that will still be shocking and very sad for many people.
Yes, Sven-Goran Eriksson did have the chance to say farewell, in fact, just last week with the release of a documentary about his life. It was a tribute to him and it was his way of celebrating all that he achieved within football. Of course, it was such a groundbreaking moment becoming the first foreign manager of the England team in 2001, and he had to overcome a lot of hostility that really lingered with him throughout his 5 years, with his nationality and right to even be in the job questioned so often, but as such a suave Swede, he did manage to sort of fend it off and delivered such memorable moments. Now, that, of course, there wasn't a trophy, as no England men's manager has managed to do since 1966, but there were the tournament quarter-finals consecutively at 3 editions with David Beckham, Wayne Rooney and co. And I think so memorably that 5-1 victory over Germany in Munich in 2001 to deliver a result of such a resounding result against England's great rival was something that really perhaps won over some of his critics and endeared him to many. And he really became a cultural figure as well, reflecting the period of the time, a celebrity figure, his own private life very much far from private at times, and perhaps counted that sort of low-key demeanour, and also subjects of songs and things like that. And he gained a status really in national life through perhaps those who weren't around at the time, on the level of the Prime Minister, something he reflected on at times with Tony Blair, how they both carried the pressurised job of the nation, where the spotlight was very firmly, particularly at those major tournaments, on how he could manage to lead the Three Lions. And the fact he even made it to this job is really a testament to everything he achieved in the game, because above everything else, he was a very notable coach, and he managed to climb right the way through the lower reaches, the third division of Swedish football, having stopped playing in his early 20s, to keep on confounding expectation, to land big jobs. The fact he set his mark in European football by winning the UEFA Cup with Gothenburg in the early 80s, and that eventually led to his path away from Sweden to one of the big European clubs, Benfica. And from Benfica in Portugal, went to enjoy an illustrious period for almost a decade in Italy. He was at Roma, Fiorentina, Lazio, these really big clubs, and he delivered cup and league successes with them. And that's why when England needed a successor to Kevin Keegan in 2000, they turned to Sven-Goran Eriksson, and it did cost them quite a significant amount of money. Again, something that was part of the public debate. But within the job, he really showed him to be so affable and charming, and hearing from the Football Association today, paying tribute to his significant work with the England team and providing such special memories. And unfortunately, he was not well enough to be able to have a big Wembley farewell, given the fact he was suffering from pancreatic cancer, a diagnosis he did go public with in the last year of his life. And he did get to fulfil that lifelong ambition of managing Liverpool, something he revealed to our colleague Neil Patterson in a Sky News interview in January, saying he had one dream, which was to manage Liverpool, having been a boyhood fan. And that was arranged. He took charge of a Legends game at Anfield in March, and it was a really emotional occasion there where he bid farewell as the Kop and all sides of Anfield applauded him, really able to sort of see how much he meant to not only the crowd at Anfield, but overall the whole of the English public. And that's really reflected as well as, you know, hearing from Prince William today with his own tribute, talking about his charisma and passion. And the one person who was alongside him so often was Steve McLaren, who was his assistant manager and eventually succeeded him as England manager. And he's paid his own tribute today, saying, "So sad to hear the news that Sven has passed away today. A true gentleman of football who had the privilege to work with for England, who became a close friend to me and my family. His calm demeanour and knowledge of football and love of red wine will be long remembered from my time with him. My condolences go out to his family on this sad day." That the tribute from Steve McLaren, who was his assistant at England manager, also went on to take the top job himself. And it was Steve McLaren's inability to qualify for Euro 2008 that perhaps put into focus just the scale of Sven-Goran Eriksson's England reign. Now, some thought he underachieved with this golden generation of David Beckham and Wayne Rooney, Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard only reaching quarter-finals. But it did take until 2018 at that World Cup for England to actually win a knockout match as a men's team at a major tournament. So success not something that England were accustomed to. And it showed why there was always that perhaps struggle with penalties, pain afflicting him. 2002 at the World Cup, being knocked out by Brazil when he thought they were sort of able to potentially go all the way, losing to Portugal. Then at the next tournaments, we had the Wayne Rooney sending off as well, which afflicted them, and penalties anguish as well. And also he had to deal with this time when football was really transcending the sports pages, with it becoming really very much a celebrity story. And that was none more so than in Baden-Baden in Germany, which was their base at the 2006 World Cup, where the wives and girlfriends of the players were so memorably there, became known as the Wags, and they were really part of the whole narrative themselves in the limelight. And there was Sven-Goran Eriksson with the task of managing England, trying to deliver success, also having to sort of deal with how he was dealing with this whole celebrity culture around the team. But really, he was undeterred by it, and he really did manage to fend off that indignation to lead the Three Lions into 5, perhaps the most frenzied years in their history. And having thought the initial approach from England was a joke, he showed that you do not have to be English to manage England. Fabio Capello succeeded him eventually as well down the line. And his later jobs were managing various national teams like Mexico, the Ivory Coast, the Philippines, also in English football with Notts County. Leicester and Manchester City showed at the heart he was a football person who wanted to stay within the game, and was perhaps never happiest then within the dugout, but certainly a transformative figure for the English national game.
trailblazer when it comes to, I guess, crossing national barriers when, you manage a team. But you mentioned there, Rob, the media attention that he was under, that the whole team really was, the media attention was different in those years. What do you think were the qualities that he had that helped him in managing that attention and ultimately to be a good manager?
Well, he really never showed any sort of flashes of anger. He had that, charisma and ability to be able to deal with what was a growing attention, being on the front as well as the back pages. But of course, there was the frustration and annoyance in later years when he was uncovered to potentially be a victim of phone hacking. His memorable relationship with his fellow Swede TV presenter Ulrika Jonsson was something that really did cause problems. And Sven-Goran Eriksson did actually have a lot of blame for how he left the England job in 2006, followed a sting by the fake shake, run by the News of the World, of course, the now defunct paper, which recorded him undercover, suggesting an interest in becoming Aston Villa manager. This was while he was still in the England job, but expected to be leaving it later that year. And, he said he was extremely disappointed and he thinks he was sacked because of that. And he said he could never accept or understand why this one paper was so important and why there was this sort of slight flash of annoyance and frustration. The fact he called into doubt who he could trust when he had concerns, of course, about his voicemails being intercepted. But the fact he stayed within the English games showed he was not bitter. And the fact he became really an adopted member of the England setup and really this being his adopted homeland. But of course, it was in Sweden where he did live out his final days, being welcomed by the likes of David Beckham, who was able to pay him a tribute and go and visit him, his former England captain, in recent months, really, as this year has actually been about Sven-Goran Eriksson saying farewell and the world of football celebrating him while he was still alive, as prepared for this sadly inevitable day as he revealed that his cancer was terminus.
Rob Harris with the latest there in reaction to the death of Sven-Goran Eriksson. Rob, thank you. And a little earlier, I spoke to Rob Tanner, football writer for The Athletic, and I began by asking how he thinks Sven-Goran Eriksson will be remembered.
As an absolute gentleman, he really was. I mean, it's an unforgiving job. Being the England manager, obviously a lot of headlines come your way, a lot of press intrusion, a lot of criticism, but he took it all, he soaked it all in, and he never changed his demeanour. He was always very respectful to everybody, never seemed to lose his temper or show any signs of the pressure of that role. I knew him personally when he was manager of Leicester City. I was covering the club then as well, and how you perceive him is exactly how he is. He's so well-mannered and generous with his time to all the supporters and to the people around the club as well. Just a true gentleman of the game.
Yes, and I think we saw that as well in the way that he handled his illness, especially in the past couple of months. But just staying with his professional achievements, what do you think his biggest achievement was?
Well, I think some of the earliest achievements in Sweden, in his home country, and then going up to Italy and progressing his career there. He was such a talented coach. I don't think we really saw the best of him in English football. He was probably earlier in his career was when he was really at the top of his game, because the game moves on so quickly and you've got to move on with it tactically as well. But the fact that he was England manager as well during that golden generation, we never saw the true potential of that team. But he was a statesman-like figure leading that team, and that's how I remember him as well. A guy that had great dignity, carried himself so well that you had nothing but respect for him.
Rob Tanner speaking to me a little earlier. Let's bring in more reaction. This from Manchester City. They've made the following post on X in tribute to their former manager. We would like to express our sincere condolences to the family and friends of Sven-Goran Eriksson, who's passed away at the age of 76. Rest in peace, Sven. Eriksson managed the side for the 2007-2008 season. And we will bring you more reaction to Sven-Goran Eriksson's death as we get it here on Sky News.